What's up, everyone? Taiki here. Welcome to episode 21 of the Crypto Market Wizards podcast. Today, I have here with me Wayne Garian for the third time. Welcome back. How are you doing today?
It's good. It's been a long day. It's been a very eventful day after yesterday's monumental event, but that be it.
So last time you were on the show, Darryl, you said, this is your second cycle. You don't want to be mid-curve, right? You need to believe in something. And I was like, you know what? Darryl was right. I do need to believe in my bags. And ever since this video, my altcoin bags, they're down 50%. So like, what happened, Darryl? And now your co-founder, Jason Choi, for Tangent, now he's posting these bear takes, like, welcome to Beartown. Like, what is Tangent's market views at this current point, and where do you think we are in the cycle?
It depends on the time frame. Tangent has positions taken on multiple different time frames, and sometimes they may not concur with what we necessarily say publicly. The general high time frame view over the last, call it 6 weeks, was that we were pretty bearish where markets were going. We were de-risked or had de-risked the majority of our current positions, I think, during the majority of the drawdown. Our stance on how we're positioned is split between 4 different ranges. The first one is omega bearish. This basically means that you are anywhere between minus 10% to 25% long. This is basically when you think it's over, and you're really only holding to your highest conviction positions, or sometimes you may even be net short. We try not to go more than minus 10%, which means 10% direction on the entire portfolio. The cautious or conservative approach is a net beta between 25 to 50%. A cautiously optimistic approach is net beta between 50 to 75%. And a aggressive approach is anything between 75 to, call it, 120%. So for the part of the last 2 months, Tangent was mainly operating within bands 1 and 2, which was, very bearish to cautiously defensive. So our net betas we were never more than, I would say, 50% long at any point in time, but the positions that we had long were running very tight invalidations on a low time frame trading setup. And so when, certain levels were lost, we were quickly invalidated and we didn't lose too much on them. I would say that the last 3 months of the market have been probably the most challenging it has been over the last cycle. It's probably the most challenging it has been since I started crypto, given where, I guess, markets topped, given where expectations were, and, I guess how it has bottomed at 54K, given where we are today, right? You basically edge everyone, thinking that you've just broken past last cycle all-time highs, thinking that 100K is on the table. Even we were buying calls at 74K, which in hindsight looks absolutely retarded. And then breaking the 4-month range below 56K, only to bottom 5% lower than there, forming a double bottom in a span of days, and then quickly reclaiming range on the back of a 30-year political event. Only in crypto do you have such wild swings in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, and I guess you're referring to, just Trump getting shot, right? And
Correct.
yeah, and I guess after that event, I think his odds of winning just shot up. I think 10 to 20%. I think some of his meme coins went up as well. And I think Trump is vocally pro-crypto. So I guess, we don't have to get into political argument, but objectively, I guess Trump winning is bullish markets, bullish crypto. Is that how you're viewing it?
Yes. So actually, the Trump event was the pivot for me because we were actually 15% long going into Sunday. It was my time Sunday morning. We had a couple alt longs open, but we were hedging it with a couple of BTC shorts at 59K. I woke up for some reason early in the morning on Sunday, saw my feed, saw that thing, instantly closed my shorts, and then basically just slammed long across a multiple different assets. Now, we are operating within the most aggressive band again, which is the 75 to 120% range. We're now about 78% long. Not, full long, but, we'll probably buy retest of 60K with the rest of our cap.
Nice. And when you say you're, let's say 80% long, is it mostly in the majors, like ahead of the ETH ETF, or are you also just sprinkling in some, I guess, beta plays for like the altcoin? Like how do you position long, right? Like how do you define aggressive? Is it just majors, or just you just slam the alt as well?
So when you say majors, are you referring to BTC and E?
Let's say BTC, ETH, and Sol. I think Sol has made it as like the
All
top
right.
three.
All right. Yeah. So I think primarily we were putting on pretty large Sol positions. And we hold no BTC and ETH right now.
Interesting.
So
So I think
I'll like to make an extra note on the nuance of data as well. Because I think what you own would, dramatically affect the variance of your portfolio as well. So for example, I think being 50% long alt, meaning not BTC ETH or SOL, is probably more volatile than if you were to be 100% long BTC. So within that range, when I say that we were aggressively long, I would say that if you're 100% long BTC, you're definitely long. You're definitely pretty aggressively long, but you're not really pushing it that much, right? You can really be 100% long absolute shitcoin, just just wait for those fast and ant bangers. So right now we're about 80% long. I would say the largest position we have is Solana, and then a smattering of other alts that we can discuss.
yeah, and for the audience, we're recording this at July 15th. So obviously, depending on when you're watching this, these numbers might change. And I think last time we had you on, you said that you're going to denominate in Solana this cycle, or at least your fund, your liquid fund. Do you still view this to be the case? We have the ETH ETF coming. Doesn't it make sense to be, allocated to ETH as well? Or do you think that if ETH goes up, then Solana is going to go up even more? So might as well just long the fastest horse.
Yeah, so we've given a lot of thought about this. I still think that in order to achieve our performance, you're probably going to need to take bets on assets that are not consensus longs. And I think with the ETH ETF, it probably will give you comfortable returns as long as flows don't disappoint. And I think right now they are about fairly priced in terms of expectations. But I don't think you're really going to be outperforming the market by a significant margin if you're denominated in ETH or BTC, for example. And it's quite funny because the majority of hedge funds out there, I don't think have outperformed BTC. So maybe that may actually be the best thing to do. But as always, we try and attempt to outperform BTC. And I just don't think you're going to be able to do that with BTC or ETH as the primary beta in your portfolio. And we still within that SOL is the main beta position that we will have for a varying amount of reasons. I think for now, the thesis has changed quite a bit slightly. The thesis I originally shared as to why SOL is going to be the best play was because number one, it was the easiest UX to use. It was the cheapest. It was the fastest. At the same time, it also had a blossoming meme ecosystem arising, right? This was before your WIFs, your bongs, your log and podcasts were really consensus logs. And I think right now they're pretty consensus logs. That thesis is, I think, quite well understood by the market now. I see a number of knee-jerk reactions saying if you want to put on longs, you can put it on Solana. I am long for a slightly different reason now. I'm not sure whether you saw a couple of weeks ago, there was a Solana ETF that was filed. And I think while the probability of it being accepted is close to zero today, that may not be the case if Republicans are in control of American regulatory forces. And because of how the US election is shaping up, I think Solana is actually going to be the proxy coin that people may eventually gravitate towards if they're trying to speculate on Republicans winning the election. Simply because if they win, the probability of the ETF goes up tremendously. And I don't think Solana is anywhere close to properly priced for a BlackRock Solana ETF. Obviously, we're still quite some ways away from that to happen. But I think leading up to the elections, this sentiment is something that I think it's pretty easy to latch on. And nobody's really talking about it yet. So this is one of the main reasons why we're long sold. But I think moving into the elections and maybe post the elections, we'll reevaluate that view. But I think as long from now till November, it's probably going to be the best beta for me to denominate it.
Got it. No, that's very interesting, and I think that logic makes a lot of sense. And I guess going back to the first interview we did, at least for the Market Wizards, we talked about how ETH is cucked. ETH is cucked. When does ETH ever get uncucked? Like does the ETF help? Right? Is the ETF the answer to all the ETH holders' like prayers, or do you just think that holding ETH is just going to be one of those things where you're going to make money, but it's not going to be like crazy, right? I guess, what's your view on ETH with the ETF?
I guess you have to realize that ETH started as an ICO at like 10 cents. So one can make the argument that the superior outperformance for ETH in its existence is past this, right? It's now become embraced as a very comfortable beta asset by most. And whenever you have by the majority of market participants, you're probably not going to have super normal performance by that asset. I think the last cycle was the proper cycle in which the Ethereum ecosystem was recognized as being significantly different from Bitcoin, could offer significantly different value positions in terms of smart contracts. And that re-rating was, I think, ETH going from March 2020 also $60 to a high of 4,000. This cycle, you have significantly more competitors which offer very similar USPs or perhaps superior USPs as well. For that reason, I think without the ETF, it is unlikely that ETH delivers that kind of super normal performance relative to the rest of the market. It can still go on a ride, but I think if it does, other assets will perform better. But with the ETH ETF, I think it's out for traditional capital to start buying it. I typically try and refrain from predicting what the flows is going to look like, mainly because after doing quite a bit of work, there are too many conflicting pieces of evidence such that we don't have a proper conclusion. Gun to my head, I would say that the flows for the ETF would probably be a disappointment to most, but it's always relative to expectations. And right now, I think expectations for the ETH ETF are not anywhere near overly high. So it could be meeting current expectations. It could even be underpricing them a little bit, and then ETH can have a move to 4K again, and maybe even retest highs. But in that situation, I would think you'd be much better off owning alts, because that general uptick of I guess that baseline just makes everything go up so much higher anyway.
Got it. And I guess on Twitter, there's always this discussion around ETH Beta. Like, what is ETH Beta? People try to longing L2 tokens, but it just keeps going down. And you mentioned Solana, and I think that makes sense. But what are your thoughts on DeFi? Of course, I think when we connected 3 or 4 years ago, it's because you were specializing in DeFi, I was specializing in DeFi, and it was new and exciting. And unfortunately, it's 2024, and there has been some improvements, but nothing too groundbreaking. You mentioned a lot of things around like betting against consensus, expectations versus reality. It seems like sentiment for DeFi is in the absolute gutters. But like some of these coins, like Aave is like 1.5 billion market cap, Maker sub 3 billion. Can't you make a case that DeFi can finally be ETH Beta? Or do you think that there's too much hopium and copium from my side? But like, what are your general thoughts on DeFi?
I think there are two aspects there that need to be dissected. I think the first one is the concept of DeFi being ETH Beta. I don't actually think DeFi is the best proxy for ETH Beta, because beta basically means a levered form or something else. The thesis points that you're raising about how DeFi should be a law, those are thesis points independent of ETH, right? And so they shouldn't be classified as, you shouldn't be using these arguments to say this is a good ETH Beta. It can be a good law as an independent thesis, but it's really got nothing to do with ETH Beta. I think right now, ETH Beta this concept is very fleeting. The market, haphazardly decides what is ETH Beta today and what's ETH Beta tomorrow, and they're not necessarily the same thing. I think trying to play the ETH Beta game is a fool's errand. There's not that much money to be made, in my opinion, and the risk of being wrong means you're just left on the sidelines way too often. But I mean, there are some, I guess, consensus ETH Betas. You have Pepe, for example, which is the meme ETH Beta. You have Pendle, which is the DeFi ETH Beta. You have your OG Optimism and Arbitrum, which is your L2 ETH Beta. Really depends on the flavor of the day or of the week for the market decide what to pump. But I once again go back to the thesis of, when there are too many betas, none of them will deliver you alpha. So that is my base case. On the second part about DeFi getting potentially at levels where, it may be attractive again, the people arguing for DeFi long because DeFi is undervalued are probably not longing it for the right reason. Like, we do not long things in crypto because they are undervalued. Maybe in 10 years' time, when this space is completely on a steady state basis, maybe that thesis works. When capital is much more accustomed to traditional markets and crypto moves in lockstep with existing equities. That does not happen today, which means that I will not use equity frameworks to try and value crypto tokens. I still believe that narrative trading is and will continue to be the best form of outperformance on alts. So I don't typically like theses that say long Aave because of XYZ reason, which makes it undervalued, or the cash flows are too attractive. Like, if you are longing Aave for the cash flows, my friend, there are a huge array of traditional banks for you to go and investigate, for you to go and long. That's not the reason why we're here. I will change that thesis if I see something material that happens in DeFi. I haven't seen it yet. I do admit that with this lens, I missed Pendle from this cycle's run. It had a fantastic run. And I overlooked the Pendle thesis, and by the time I started looking at it, it was too late. With this sort of approach, you're definitely going to miss some things. But in general, it served me pretty well to not fall into the value traps that is DeFi. Maybe, I would give you one example of something I think is interesting today, and I think, a number of people are already catching on to it. It is Maker getting that BlackRock association with I believe BlackRock's investing in its new fund or some variation.
Yeah, Maker's gonna collect $1 billion from all these, Ondo, BlackRock.
Correct. So Maker is getting a bit now, not because people realize that the cash flows from it operating DAI is all of a sudden undervalued. People are buying it because of the BlackRock association. And why are they doing that? Because they've seen Ondo run a ridiculous amount on that same thesis. So prices are moving because of association to specific things that the market has learned will drive prices up.
Got it.
Right? So to me, that's narrative trading. You're making Maker a narrative trade, and that works. That's fine. But not because it's undervalued.
Interesting. So it seems like, you favor narrative trading over getting into these value traps. And I guess, value investors, even the stock market has gone destroyed relative to growth investing. And there's always this element of pattern recognition. oh, like Bonk went up when Solana went up. Therefore, when ETH goes up, Pepe goes up, WIF goes up, or whatever. What are your thoughts on the next narrative? Because meme coins obviously has been crazy the past year. Recently, they've kind of, came back to earth. Do you think they're going to come back just like stronger than ever? Or do you think that a new narrative is going to form? What are your thoughts on like the next narratives?
I think as long as you're not seeing proper technological innovation in crypto, meme coins would still continue to take hold. And I really still have not seen anything that excites me. The most interesting thing that excites me this cycle is like Farcaster, which is why I think there will be some form of social filing that comes out. I don't know when it's going to come out. We've seen small instances of it already. But a narrative that I'm probably looking to play when it makes itself known is the social file narrative. I think it a fresh game. It the least understood by people. It's very difficult to block, I believe. So that is something that offers also the most interesting dream of this side. It's obviously that, and the evergreen one for this cycle is also AI, which I'm surprised it's not caught a bit yet.
Yeah, I'm surprised too. It's like BitTensor is down a lot. Like all these AI coins are just down a lot. I mean, I think everyone in crypto understands that these AI coins don't really do anything, but people were bidding it because it's like an AI coin. Nvidia is going up, so this will also go up. But I guess that hasn't happened. I guess, do you think that's just because we're still relatively in PvP conditions, where maybe if retail was coming back, if it was relatively PvE, then all these coins would just go up in tandem. But there's been a significant dispersion in asset performance in crypto. And do you think that's just because there's not enough money in crypto to support all these like so there's so many tokens, right? When do you think PvE comes back, and how do you navigate like a PvP meta like where we are now?
Yeah, I mean, we've been navigating it. I mean, everyone has been navigating it for the last basically 4 months, right? I think you've been in the most brutal PvP environment right now. Stablecoin uptick, I believe it's beginning to start going up again, which is a very good sign that the PvE is lightening. But I think we're most certainly still in PvP. We will continue to be here until we break outside of this way. I think 74K, if that breaks, then you really get, I think, PvE environment, because number one, the capital that's needed to push that up is a lot more than what we have today. And I think that 4-month break up, or however long it takes to break up, that consolidation period within this range will have conditioned so many traders to be in a PvP mindset that when PvE comes in, they won't recognize it. And that's how you get explosive moves up. So I believe that can only happen. Well, we had a long-term thesis for what do we need to see before we have credible reasons to believe 74K can break out. And there were two main things that were highlighted. The first one is a Republican win in the US elections, which is one of the reasons why we flipped so drastically on the assassination attempt yesterday. I think now it's all but certain that Trump is going to win. And I think the markets are beginning to reprice that in today. There will definitely be some volatility between now and then. But I think more or less the outcome is reasonable. You are reasonable certainty that the outcome is already in front of us. The second point is on easing liquidity conditions. And this is up to our dear friend, Mr. Powell. I do think you're going to need general global easing liquidity and conditions in order for crypto to experience the kind of run it did in 2021. I believe in 2 weeks' time, we will have the first FOMC meeting where a cut is potentially on the table, and we're expecting a couple more cuts shortly after. So this heuristic is not perfect, but I think it's needed in order to break 74K. I don't know when it's going to happen. Maybe it could come 3 months after cuts have happened. It could come 3 days after cuts have happened. I have no clarity there. But I think these are the two main things I'm looking at to determine how to position, basically which band am I positioning in? Am I sort of conservatively optimistic, defensive, very bearish, or aggressive? It's really up to these two factors. And so far, we've got one of them down. A month ago, we had none of them, right? So we were waiting until we saw further confirmation of these two factors before we decided to put on risk again.
Got it. So where do you think we are in the cycle? It feels like we're somewhere mid-cycle. And I guess to our audience, we're all trying to make it. If someone is, trying to run it up right now, like what do you think is like the best way to, I guess, get to someone's whatever financial goals?
Oh, that's okay. That's very review. Okay, let's go for the first part of the question, where we are in the cycle. This is very tricky. We at Intention, we typically split the cycle into 4 quadrants: Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. Q1 is basically the bottom of, everybody under positioned, all hope is lost. And then you slowly start grinding up on a wall of worry. Q2 is when the acceleration of tokens coming to full swing. People begin to realize monumental levels of wealth. And you start getting the top signals begin to come up as you approach the end of Q2. Q3 is when the top signals are in full force. Prices begin consolidating. You feel like things should keep going on, but prices are really not moving that much. And Q4 is when basically you start losing ranges, market structure starts breaking down, and tokens lose levels and then never reclaim them. And you start, that's where one by one people get killed. Relatively. This cycle has been really tricky because seems like we saw an entire cycle, meaning each of those quadrants already happened, but for different parts of the market, right? For alts, for example, you can make the argument that you saw all levels of Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4 happen already, the sum of that. And you can even make the argument we're in the next cycle for some of these alts. For Bitcoin, it seems like we are like maybe Q3, maybe Q2, right? We don't really know. Because if this is the top, then if let's say we are unable to break 74K, then this is probably in Q3 where you're probably just supposed to sell everything. It's the trickiest because of the dispersion between alt and BTC. I tend to think with the amount of with the idiosyncratic flows of the ETF, Bitcoin is sort of distancing itself away from conventional crypto cycles. I think there are too many latent bidders that will step in to defend prices. And also, one thing to note, credit in our industry has really not come back in any form since 2021. You don't see any levered entities really pushing credit limits, both seen and unseen. I would say that, like, if you really want to look at credit limit, the only thing that like Athena is not even like a credit risk. It's more so like an illiquidity background risk. But there's nothing really, borrowing money, or like there's no uncollateralized loans out there, waiting to get found. I think all your on-chain loans as well. And if you look at how many loans are taken on DeFi, I don't think they are anywhere near levels where you were at in 2021. So Bitcoin, I think, and ETH likely become or start trading like more conventional assets, especially with the ETF. I think alts will still have its own sort of cycles, and alts will basically function as derivatives of Bitcoin. Meaning, if Bitcoin begins to go up, alts will start turbocharging up. Bitcoin's momentum begins to trend, begins to stall. Alts will start coming down. Bitcoin starts even just turning down slightly. Alts are basically going to start breaking, and that's what we saw in the last 4 months. So it's very challenging. We're still forming our own frameworks of how to think about this, but it's no longer the truth that you can have simple systems like capital goes into BTC, then it goes into ETH, then it goes into alt, then it goes into shitcoins, then it goes back to BTC. Like, I don't think that was like in 2017, 2018, maybe in 2020 for a bit. That's longer. To your second point, what to do if you're joining crypto today? I'm like, oh my God, why would you cry even?
It's so hard. It's so hard.
It's so hard. Like I was telling Jason, if I saw crypto today from the outside, there's no way I'd join. Like, it's so much more difficult than just aping equities. Like, you can just be aping QQQ and you'll probably be outperforming my 80% of people in crypto today.
Yeah.
So, but if you really wanted to try, I would say two things. Number one, go on chain. That's all I've always said, go on chain, because that's where the best reflexive assets are and the best upside. But on-chain does not last forever. If you notice, you have very specific on-chain seasons where activity happens, and then you will have deaths of just basically ghost towns. So I think you need to also be able to trade the centralized exchange parts. And so I think a balance of running long short trades on centralized exchanges as well as on-chain ability is preferred in order to make it the cycle. But I'll be honest with you, unless you are running very sophisticated strategies on meme coins, or basically that, or you use a shit ton of leverage, I just don't see how you're going to make like 50 yet in this market. I don't see anyone doing it.
Yeah.
I would say that this is the time that you're still basically supposed to preserve your capital, try and slowly grow it. And then when you get that ease and liquidity condition, then you really go to town. I don't think we're back there yet.
Yeah. Like, even for me, like I run a fairly, not really, but some sophisticated airdrop farming strategy. And paid pretty well at the beginning of the year, maybe late last year. But like nowadays, we farm these things to dump them. Everyone's doing that. And then when the token comes out, it just goes down like 80%. Yeah, like even Blast, like I was very surprised to see it below like 2 billion. I guess in hindsight, it kind of makes sense. But I guess like my question to you is, like, what do you think about, I guess, this airdrop farming, like VC, low flow, high FTV beta, or low flow, high FTV meta? And are these alts just a tool for you to like just get in and out, right? Just like make a few bucks on a trade, get out, don't want to touch them, don't want to hold them. It seems like a lot of people are coming to this type of mentality, some form of jadedness with crypto this cycle. Like what are your thoughts on? Yeah,
I think that's generally consensus, and I'm going to disagree with it for a couple of reasons. I think, but taking a step back away with it, I don't really comment on airdrop farming because I've never really done it. I don't know the strategies. I think it was an unsolved game 2 years ago. Today, it's pretty damn damn solved. In general, when you're playing solved games, you win a lot of money. That's it. So, I will say that for speculators in today's cycle, I think that there are 3 different types of alts that I think people have begun to come back to again and again. The first type are new coins. New coins meaning just listed, fresh floats, 5% floats, 10% floats. Maybe you got the airdrop unlocked, but other than that, for the next 3 to 6 months, you're free, meaning whatever the float there is there, not going to change. These coins are ones where you can burst new narrative, where the cards are fresh, meaning there are no resistances, no supports, no ranges, and basically you're free to work with them as per your imagination. As you move on and you start nearing the unlock list, I think this is where things get very dangerous because a lot of people begin to hit their unlocks. And if done incorrectly, you will see a number of different short setups or short squeezes that may punish hedges. I think one example of this is something like Celestia right now, where even though an unlock is coming in 3 months' time, 3 months is an eternity in crypto, right? If you're hedging your unlock as a function of you say, oh, okay, I just have to wait 3 more months and then I'll be able to dump my tokens and move on. If that becomes too consensus, you may have to contend with the squeeze in your hands. And I think these squeezes, we haven't really seen anything really powerful yet. I think, I'm not sure whether you recall last IPO, there was this thing called the Y squeeze on Wi-Fi. It wasn't exactly the same thing, but it shows you the power of short squeezes that we haven't really seen this cycle. I think we have that in the making for some of these alts in the future. And then once you start hitting the unlock, right, I call this the death of speculation. You have this valley where it's a no-touch zone. And you basically don't touch it. You're not allowed to touch it if you want to make money. Until the float is at least 50% of the total FTD. So basically, once you hit the cliff, you have like 10% of float, and then your float starts going up. Maybe on the cliff date, go to 15%. And then as time unlocks, your team investors and every motherfucker wants to unlock on you, dump on you. Your float goes up, and then you see charts like Arbitrum, you see charts like Lido, you see charts like DYDX, and this is the no touch zone because you just get eights if you prime all of it. Until I think it gets to about 50% float. That's when I think the majority of the dumping is done. You still have to contend with some of it, but relative to the float, it's okay. And then you move on to the other end, right? The older coins where the float is close to 100%. And the majority of these coins are dead coins, they're ghost coins. That one you can sort of just basically discard unless you're hoping it becomes a meme coin. But, in this day, it's probably not. But the coins that survive, meaning the coins that are still relevant today, but have fully 100% circulating float, or maybe close to 100%. I think those coins are also very interesting to buy, because you have no more unlock pressure. Nobody is going to dump on you, right? And so I think a lot of the new narratives can be championed by some of these old coins that will have a rediscovery arc. Some of them, we haven't seen them all that much yet, but when I see them, I'm going to be betting pretty heavily on some of these. And obviously the last type of coin is from day one, 100% circulating supply, and those are most likely your meme coins because they just drop everything to the community. They don't require any form of funding. I'd say that in terms of preference of coins, I rank the best ones as the high float old coins with rediscovery arcs as the number one in terms of profit potential. The second one would be the meme coins, where you have 100% of float, but the token doesn't actually do anything. The third one is the new coins where you have, fresh charts, mainly because they're on some form of timer. But it depends. If sort of the vertical is really hot and they are like the shining point in the market either, that's fine by me. So I rank it like that. And that's really how we try to find new prospect on the longer term book.
Yeah. I guess on the high float tokens, like that's one of the reasons why I think DeFi coins can't come back. Maybe I'm just falling into the value trap mentality. And maybe I want, like, maybe subconsciously I want them to come back, right? So, I'm thinking that, maybe I should buy them. But the problem is that, all these coins like Aave, Maker, they have opportunity cost. If you have ETH, you can airdrop farm, earn 10, 20, 30% APY. You hold Aave, it's like not doing anything. I guess you can stake it, but it's like a 20-day cooldown period. And also one thing you mentioned earlier that was good. Playing solved game is not good, right? And I immediately thought of like poker, where I got into poker in 2020, or like professionally in 2020. I was like running Pio Sims every single day, like game theory solvers. And I made some money, but like I was like, I was like poor, basically. So, you have to find unsolved games. And of course, it's a lot easier said than done, right? It's a lot easier to look for something that's pumped and like, okay, like time to play that again, but maybe that's too late. And maybe the next meta, the cycle, is something that hasn't even been discovered yet, right? So maybe the goal is to survive now, just keep looking for opportunities, and whenever you see something that's like a brain dead long, just go for it, and not touch these low float FTV stuff until the float is fairly decent. And speaking around like this topic, Salience asked this question. So I'm sure you have some visibility on the OTC markets with team hedging, investors hedging, or just traders shorting these tokens. Does this give you any color into, I guess, your trading book? What do you see in the OTC markets for all these VC coins? And how do you think they'll trade? I guess maybe you expect some short squeezes, but I guess can you give us more color like on what you see, I guess, in these OTC markets?
I typically don't try. Well, number one, it doesn't inform our own position on our venture portfolio. We have a very simple rule: we will never OTC out any stack. We will never hit any venture bag on purpose. Mainly, number one, mainly on principle, because I think it's not the best if you get caught doing it, and I don't think it's correct. And number two, it can actually hurt you financially quite a bit if the thing that you're hedging plus with a parabolic run, because you have you have unlimited downside on anything that you're hedging. So as a rule, we don't do it. Whether it informs, okay, so all these OTC deals are basically hands that are being changed. A marginal buyer is selling to a marginal seller. Does this mean that the person buying it has a stronger view or a more direct-handed view of the token? It can be, but not necessarily. I don't try and look too much into these dynamics. I would say that there are exceptions to which some coins are very heavily traded, and by the time it comes to open market, all the, I guess, weak hands are out, and then it starts going on a run. I think the most popular example of this was Solana back in 2021. But by and large, these OTCs don't necessarily mean all that for the market. I think you would have some situations in which markets understand where VPs are buying or selling this, and for that reason, use it as some form of support. It's at best a tenuous relationship because, number one, the people who are buying these bags likely will not be buying it on the open market at the same time. Like, the reason why they're buying it like that, they cannot buy it on the open market. A lot of VCs have mandates that they cannot purchase their tokens. So it's not really like, okay, if, let's say TR is being traded at $3 a ton on the OTC markets, it means that $3 is a support. You can meme it to be a support, and enough people believe it can be a support. But there's no actual relationship as to why this should be a support. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't really read too much into the OTCs. I would say that this cycle there have been significantly more churn in terms of stats being traded, mainly because I think, well, number one, there are a lot more predatory VCs that have understood that to win, they need to sell. There were a lot of people or holders in 2021 that just never sold their SaaS, and some benefited very, very well from them. But then the later vintage of those who tried to do that, basically everyone died, right? So what happened now is that has been ingrained in the venture ecosystem, and for the more opportunistic venture investor, they're going to take the first opportunity to unload these on the secondary market. So you see a lot more churn. I don't think you make that much of a difference. So.
Yeah, I guess people trying to trade these unlocks, maybe it's a form of fancy play syndrome, where there's probably better markets for you to look at, but maybe people love to gamble. So they're like, oh, I'm going to long the unlock because I'm so smart and I'm right. And then they can tweet about it and get engagement. Maybe that's more of the utility of these trading unlocks. There's no edge to be had, but it's more for, attention, right? Like, because whenever there's an unlock, there's more attention, so maybe there's more volatility.
I would say
That's
that
something I've
for
seen.
every bullish unlock, there are like 10 bearish unlocks.
There's probably like
So
100 bearish unlocks, honestly.
yes,
We
probably
just don't
that.
hear about it because they're all going to
Yes,
zero.
correct. So, uh, not really my cup of tea.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And you mentioned earlier, near the beginning, that you don't really see leverage coming back into the system in the form of under collateralized loans, and the VCs understand that they need to sell in order to lock in gains. And I guess that's one difference that I've noticed the cycle from last cycle. Last cycle, there was a lot of greed, lots of leverage, lots of just money flying around everywhere. But this cycle, of course, there is greed, right? You can see that in the meme coin sector, but people are still relatively careful. And for that reason, maybe we shouldn't expect that much downside. But maybe the upside is going to be less muted. And maybe crypto just trades like other markets, like eventually. And maybe the Suzu super cycle thesis finally comes into effect.
Yeah, I think that's the eventuality. And I hope I think about it, I probably won't. The way that you're investing in crypto would be significantly different than what you're doing today. Right. And I think it's a very good reason why there isn't that much greed in the market anymore, because anyone has exhibited those trades have lost all their money. Like those guys, the reason why you don't those 10x long guys in mosques, they all died. They've been think the market is so
The
now you're
endangered
only
species.
seeing, yeah, basically, right? And not even in danger, you just don't see them anymore. So now you're seeing guys, I guess the more prominent traders that take on much lower leverage, and opt for more capital preservation, risk management, because those are the guys that survive the cycle, right? So it's just basically another sign of PvP. I mean, when easy liquidity conditions come back, the greed will come back, the retards with the 10x leverage will come back, and that's a sign that you're in for a pretty good run for a while.
Yeah. I guess, going back to this original audience question, I feel like crypto Twitter has really deteriorated the cycle. Maybe because there are no significant tech improvements. So the only thing to talk about are like price action and meme coins. And maybe that attracts the wrong type of people. But how do you use Twitter? Like how do you, yeah, how do you differentiate between signal and so much noise in the space? And like, where do you get the most valuable information nowadays?
I don't really use Twitter for valuable information anymore. It's more so my news feed, keep up the breath with what's happening in the space, but not so much as alpha. I think long ago the alpha moved to group chat Telegram. So it's tough. There are still some good accounts out there. Maybe I'll put together a list to share. But off the top of my head, I just in general don't think Twitter is that useful for alpha. But you need it. And I think what's important is for people who use Twitter, be a content creator. I think it's very important to make sure that your voice is heard, so that you slowly build some sort of online presence. And I think this day and age, or this generation, having an online presence is as important as having capital. I think it's a different kind of capital, it's social capital, and it is very underappreciated. And who knows, someday it may come back in the form of social fire to help you.
Right. Yeah. And, we tried with Friendtech, but I think that thing is like down 95%.
Oh dear, old friend. That's going to be one of the losses of handling this life.
Wait, what do you mean? Like, did you buy Friend or?
Oh yeah, boy. I'm almost embarrassed to tell you how much friend we own. So we shall move on.
Okay, we will move on. And it's okay. The next social fly bet will pay off. And yeah, I totally agree. I'm naturally like an introverted person, but I still put myself out there, in the bull market, in the bear market. And I think people recognize that. And even with like the whole celebrity coin meta, right? It's like someone with a 500,000 followers, like some celebrity tweets a meme coin, it doesn't move, and then someone with like 50K followers who have a lot of engagement, that can send the price up like 10, 20x, right? So there's a lot of social capital, and because crypto is so terminally online, so much narratives get formed on Twitter, so that just having an account to make friends, to keep up with narratives, I think is really important. Because like you said, I agree. A lot of the alpha has moved off Twitter and into group chats, Discords, etc. So you really want to be part of that, right? Because otherwise, we're all performing, or we're all, I guess, participating at like a negative edge, because this industry is so insider driven. If you're not
Correct.
going away from the majors.
Correct.
Yeah. But anyways, this was a good conversation. I guess a few more questions. I'm curious, like, what are your life goals? Like, when do you like retire from crypto? Do you think crypto is just a means to an end, right? Like, just run up numbers on a screen. At some point, you hit a certain number, you go away. Like, how do you see yourself, I guess, in 5 to 10 years? Like, where do you want to be? What are your goals, etc.?
Yeah, I think it's very simple. Well, number one, I love the game. I love the game of competing with the best and brightest traders and investors in the world. I think crypto is the fairest and best platform or plane to achieve supernormal wealth. The goal for me in the next 10 years is very clear: to build the best prop fund in crypto globally. That is very clear to me. And I think so far, at year 2 of Tangent, I think we're on track. We're still, in the baby stages, but eventually we'll get there, hopefully. I think looking past that, my life goal is basically to, I've always dreamt about the stars and going, basically accelerating humanity's progression towards being an interstellar species.
Oh,
I
wow.
think one
Okay.
day, if I were to leave a legacy on my contribution, I would like to try and support that endeavor in any way I can. So one of the things on my bucket list is basically I want to go to space before I die. So I think it's pretty cool. So yeah, I think it's a big enough life goal such that I don't think I'll ever get bored of it.
Yeah. I guess, we're all, going, we're like not really on a traditional career path, right? Like, we're all just degenerates at heart. And though we're focused on survival and being a cockroach, we all want to degen, we all want to just punt. You want to punch your coins up the leverage, just feel something. But I guess right now, maybe time to just lay low, stay calm, and let the markets dictate how much action we chase.
Yeah. And I mean, I enjoy every day what I'm doing, right? It's not like I don't enjoy it. There'll be stressful days, there'll be days you lose money, there'll be days you win money. But it's the act of just staying in the game and just battling it out, grinding it out versus your competitors, and eventually winning.
Yeah. I guess we talked about your future. Hopefully, you just go to space and help humanity go to Mars or something. But if you can give advice, let's say to your younger self, let's say in 2020, because I think that's when you joined, right? Crypto, like, what would it be in order to be a successful trader, investor, market participant?
Actually, it would be never lose your morals and always keep your ethics. Because I think I didn't, after 4 years in this space, I've seen a lot of shit.
Yeah, there's so much shit, man.
A
Fucking
lot of not
disgusting.
so nice shit. Some close to me, some further away from me. And I've definitely been tempted to do things that are on the grayer side of things before. I like to believe that I've stayed the right course. But I think that is probably the most important thing. Never lose yourself in pursuit of your goals. I'll say that's pretty important, because if you give up who you are or your purity as a person before you join crypto to achieve, whatever dollar value that you want to achieve, then I think you've sort of lost your way in the pursuit of wealth. So yeah, I think that's something to keep in mind.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. I tend to have this mantra of just trying to play long-term games with long-term people, because there's always opportunities, right? It's like, oh, like we have followers, you have followers, like I get DMs all the time, hey, like, show this coin, show that coin, but it's like, nah, like it's vaporware. So of course, I have a lot less money than I would have if I took all these deals in the past 4 years, but
Yeah,
I do think that
it's
the
not the right
personal
path.
relationships. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like you said, I do want to leave some form of legacy on crypto. Hopefully it's good, right? Hopefully I don't blow up. Hopefully I'm not like begging for fruit stamps or something. But uh, you know, I do think that having morals, having ethics has helped me build good relationships in crypto, and that's everything, right? Like I think Suzu said this, or someone said this, like it's not enough for you to be rich. Like you want to be rich with your friends, right? Like you want to make it with friends, and then you can
That's true.
just have these lifetime, like lifelong relationships. And hopefully, we have that, right? We'll hopefully see each other in
Oh
Singapore.
yes.
Yeah, and we can, I guess, yeah, like meet all these people in Singapore. But yeah, I really like that advice. Never lose yourself. Um, Really tempting to take the short term, I guess, gains, right? Like, to do immoral stuff. But I think you want to live life with no regrets. You want to minimize, or
The thing as well about being in crypto is that, like, if you say, right, say don't do stuff that is shady. Like when you first hear it, you'd be like, yeah, of course I won't do that, right? But the thing is, I think as a young person, when you haven't really seen the world, you haven't really seen what the world can be. Um, I guess you don't expect things. And I think after 4 years of being in crypto, I've seen a lot of stuff, and it's not always so simple, right? But I think if you follow that, I guess that guiding light of not losing yourself and preserving, your morals here, I think you'll come out okay.
yeah. Well, this was a great conversation, Daryl. Do you have any final words of wisdom? Final alpha, I guess, how to make it this cycle? Everyone loves this section.
I always say, um, basically it's my Instagram bio. Basically, live, laugh, and long.
Live,
So
laugh, long.
it's live, laugh, and long. So you live, meaning you try and enjoy yourself, try and enjoy life while you can when you're young. Uh, you take care of your body, you take care of your health, you take care of the people around you. You laugh, meaning yeah, you have a good time, you appreciate where you are, and you long because as an investor, longing allows you to allocate the resources where you think it deserves to be. And you have the power to determine which vertical should be worth higher, which vertical deserves more resources, and that's how you contribute to society. So live, laugh, and long.
Live, laugh, long. I like that. I'm
Yeah.
definitely living, I'm laughing, and I'm definitely long. So I definitely
And
love
you're
that
good.
advice. All
And you're good.
right. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Daryl. Hope everyone enjoyed episode 21 of Crypto Market Wizards, and we'll see you again maybe in a couple months again. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the content. If you want more free content around crypto, DeFi, and on-chain farming, please check out the link in the description below for our free newsletter. Also, I run a premium community called the Humble Farmer Army, so if you're interested in that, I will also put the link in the description below. Thanks for watching, and see you guys next time. Bye-bye.